Hello everyone. Today, we'll be seeing how fast Carnivine can beat Pokemon Platinum in a solo run challenge. Let's get straight into the video. Yeah, sorry I haven't uploaded a video over a month. I kinda just wanted a break from putting out a video almost every week so far this year. In fact, the first half of the year was 2 videos a week. So you guys don't blame me if I wanted a little break, right? But anyway, it's now August. I'm gonna get back into the swing of things. But right now, let's talk about what kind of Pokemon we're playing. As I mentioned earlier, we're playing with Carnivine. I thought this thing was gonna do bad, but looking at its stats, it looked somewhat promising. We have 74 HP, 100 attack, 72 defense, 90 special attack, 72 special defense, and 46 speed in the slow level up group. Yeah, dude, 46 speed in the slow growth rate? That's essentially just like Parasect with 30 speed, but at least it was in the medium fast group so I could get levels quicker. But this thing is just very slow, and the fact it's going to move second constantly means A, we're going to need the Quick Claw for almost every fight, and 2, by default, this run is just going to take a lot longer than the others. But who knows, maybe the moveset can make up for it, right? Well, as you can see on the overlay, we start with 2 moves, Bind and Growth. And here's the sad thing about Growth. Growth raises your special attack by 1 stage. It does not raise your attack as well until Gen 5. And let's look at this thing's moveset, shall we? At level 7 we get Bite, then 11 we get Vine Whip, which will definitely be needed for Rourke. And then we get Sweet Scent, Ingrain, Feint Attack, Stockpile, Swallow, Spit Up, Crunch, Ring Out, and Power Whip. Here's the thing. The only special move this gets by level up is Ring Out. So this thing has no reason to ever want Growth. And the funny thing is, Power Whip, I actually didn't know what the move does. It's essentially like a grass type Fire Blast. It has 120 power, 85 accuracy, and it is a physical move, which will go great with a particular TM we can learn. If you look at our TM set, we really do not get much move coverage, but if you can see in the middle, we get TM 75, which is Swords Dance. For some reason, a lot of grass types love learning this move. I can definitely see us mainly using Swords Dance, Return, maybe with Crunch, possibly Power Whip if we needed to. I know via Move Tutor we can get Seed Bomb, but I don't end up using it in this run. I don't recall how many shards it costs, but the grass types physically don't really save as much time as you think, because grass offensively is, in my opinion, one of the worst typings. I mean, it's great against rock types, but other than that, I guess water types. But besides, we get Power Whip by level up, and Power Whip is going to have very few uses in the run. But for sure, though, we're going to need to do some training in the early game in order to get Vine Whip for Rourke. And besides, starting with Bind and Growth is so horrifically bad, I actually teach Return as soon as I get it. At the default 70 Friendship, Return only has a power of 28, which is literally almost twice as good as Bind, which is a really sad statement, but I just have to teach it early. And fortunately, the very first trainer on Route 202, youngster Tristan and his Starly, it only has Tackling Quick Attack, so at least it doesn't have Wing Attack. It doesn't get Wing Attack until level 9, I believe. And the reason I know this from memory is from all the Platinum runs I've done where I had to do mandatory double battles and my Starly Fly user would get XP. That's essentially how I remember it. And while I'm fighting the rest of these trainers on Route 202, I'm going to go over a couple of other things. We're running the Jolly Nature today, which is plus speed minus special attack. We're never going to be using our special attack this entire run, and we need every ounce of speed we can get with how bad 46 base speed is. And our only ability is Levitate, which makes us immune to ground type attacks, which really isn't as good as on some other Pokemon because we already resist ground moves anyway. So yeah, that's just annoying. Levitate's really good on electric types though. I'm looking at you, Electros. And our hidden power typing is Hidden Power Dark. Whenever you see a Pokemon of mine with Hidden Power Dark, 9 out of 10 times I'm not using Hidden Power. The reason so is because at 31 IVs and everything, which is a perfect Pokemon, it always has the 70 base power Hidden Power Dark. So if you essentially see Hidden Power Dark, unless I explicitly say otherwise, you can rest assured I am not using that move. And besides, Hidden Power is a special move in this game. If Hidden Power still had that thing where depending on the type it's either physical or special, this thing can definitely benefit from some Hidden Power typings, but I guess we'll never know. But anyway, in Jubilife City, I go ahead and get the Quick Claw, which I'm going to use in most playthroughs, and then I can defeat the rival and pretty much almost every trainer from here all the way to Orberg City. But while trying to fight the trainers in the trainer school, and Carnivine ended up getting a very early blackout, and I didn't want to bother resetting the run because I knew this run was going to be bad, so I just continued along. But on the bright side, once I got level 8, I get access to Bite, which is going to be my main spamming move, and it feels quite nice. And also, on youngster Sebastian right here with his Machop, he used one Leer on me, and then Low Kick did so much damage, I ended up blacking out again. Okay, yeah, you know things are bad when we're getting blackouts this early on. Yep, things are not going according to plan. But anyway, once I finish all the trainers leading up to Orberg City, including the mine, defeating the last of Rourke's gym trainers gets me directly to level 13. Now, let's go destroy the first gym leader, Rourke. He leads off with Geodude. Vine Whip is good for the one-shot. And then on the Onix, it actually takes a couple of hits, which actually kind of surprised me, but that's mainly because of the fact that Vine Whip is a physical move, and Onix's only good stat is defense, so that does pretty much explain it. But eventually it faints, and then the Cranidos goes down, because Cranidos has very paper-thin defenses, including physical defense, by the way. Then with Rourke defeated, I go ahead and buy some repels at the Mart, and I go inside this building right here to get myself a Dusk Ball. The reason I get myself the Dust Ball is it makes catching the Psyduck inside the Orberg Gate a lot more consistent. If I recall correctly, the Dust Ball gives the Psyduck roughly a 97% chance of being caught. I didn't do the math, somebody in my chat did, so it ends up being really good. Although I did make a minor mistake here, and I end up going into the basement floor of the Orberg Gate to get the Psyduck. I only have to do that in Diamond and Pearl, because in Diamond and Pearl, Psyduck only spawn on the lower floor, but in Platinum, they made it spawn on the top floor as well. It was probably to give Chimchar players an answer to Rourke, which is probably why they did that. But yeah, I ended up just wasting time, because as soon as I caught the Psyduck, I had to go walk back up. Oh well. Not much else really happens from here to Floroma Town, so we may as well skip straight ahead to the next major fight with Mars. I knew from watching Scott's Thoughts Carnivine video from roughly 10 months ago that Mars was going to be very tough. I essentially need to use a Pecha Berry to eat up a Toxic, and then just hope I get lucky on the Perugly. But I essentially chose to do a different route. I actually kept the Quick Claw equipped because I realized I actually outsped the Zubat, so there was no need for the Pecha Berry. So I decided to just keep around the Quick Claw, but then at the very last minute, when I was at low health, I get the Quick Claw clutch, and Bite gets a critical hit. So I ended up first trying Mars. Okay, yeah, that was very lucky, but hey, I'm finally glad to be past that fight, because I remember Scott had to train in the wild till like level 20 or something, so that's already a huge time save compared to him. I think maybe throughout this run, I'll probably see where my run ends up at compared to his run. He and I play by very different rules, like he does evolutions in his Platinum runs, but since Carnivine is a solo evolution Pokemon, his run and my run can be somewhat comparable. So I think maybe after Gardenia or something, I can go ahead and look at the splits. But first, we need to get to Gardenia. And since I still want a lot of training, I continue the training leading up to the Eterna Forest. So I fight a lot of the trainers leading up to the forest, and then I fight the trainers in the forest as well. Although something kinda bad happens, on this stubble battle right here with the Pachirisu lady and the bug catcher, I actually forgot to save for this fight, and I ended up getting poisoned. I tried to black out, but for some reason, the Chansey ended up winning the fight for me because that thing usually doesn't like to attack. It likes to heal itself. And at this moment, I was trying to figure out what to do. Should I start the run over or what? But I decided to instead just count it as a blackout for now because I was actually trying to black out, but Cheryl essentially just won the fight for me. But if I recall correctly in this game, I think even if all of your Pokemon faint, you don't actually black out until the Chansey dies. So I think theoretically, since the Chansey can win the fight for you, I decided to just count it as a blackout for now, but let me know in the comments what you think I should do. I did not want to go through that early game again, especially with how lucky Carnivine got. But besides, there's going to be a lot of other worse fights from here on out. With the forest behind me, I go into the mart to buy some paralyze heals for the gym, take out the gym trainers, and now we can go take on the second gym leader, Gardenia. Gardenia leads off with her Turtwig. She usually likes to set up Reflect turn 1, but she ended up using Sunny Day first and then Reflect. It's probably because she was going to send out the Cherrim second, but as soon as I defeated it, she sent out Roserade because it has Poison Sting, plus it's a poison type as well. I try to just slowly chip it down with Bite. Even though I get paralyzed with Stun Spore, her entire team really can't do anything to me. So I just slowly take out the Roserade, and then on the Cherrim, it ended up knocking me out because she ended up using a potion at the last second. So yeah, that was a very close fight, but that's my first reset in the run. I end up getting another reset on Gardenia, but on the third attempt, I actually beat her Cherrim at 11 hit points left, and I get my second badge. Now, before I go into the Galactic hideout building right here, I go inside the Eterna forest into the old chateau building. I get myself the TM for Substitute, a rare candy, and the Dread Plate. Plus, I actually go ahead and teach Substitute in the place of Growth. Growth has no purpose being on this learn set, so I figured it wasn't a big deal just getting rid of it. And now at level 23, we need to go defeat Jupiter. But however though, I'm not going to luck my way through Jupiter just like I lucked my way through Mars. I go ahead and use a Substitute here, and Wing Attack just breaks it right away, so I knew I pretty much had to just start attacking. But the good news is that Bite does half, so if I got a flinch, I could get to the Skunk Tank with no damage. And then Night Slash is only doing roughly like 20 damage to me. But the problem is, Bite is resisted, and at around 154 Friendship, Return only has an effective power 61, which is technically 1 power greater than Bite, plus Bite's resisted. So Return technically is going to do double the damage. But the reason I keep going for Bite in this fight was to hope for flinches, but that's really not a good idea. I just keep getting resets upon resets upon resets, and after losing to her quite a few times, I try to just take out the rest of the Galactic Grunts in this building first for a bit more training. However though, because of the slow growth rate being slow, by the time I defeat the Galactic Grunts, I'm back to level 24. So like, I only gained 1 level this whole time. So I think the main plan is just to keep trying this until I win. Because here's the thing, I could theoretically train in the wild, but the thing is, I've already fought pretty much all the good trainers. I know there's some trainers to the east of Eterna City, but those trainers are so bad, they may as well not exist. I pretty much never go over there. And besides, training in the wild would take so long, and even if I were to get like 28 or something, it's not like it would really affect the fight. The only thing that would truly help me in this fight is outspeeding the Skunk Tank, but that would take so much training. I would probably need level 28 or something. So I think it's literally faster to try and Aerodactyl this fight. By that, I essentially just mean hitting my head against the wall until something changes. That's essentially what Aerodactyling the fight means. If you're a new viewer, I often use phrases from my other runs. Like for example, the reason I call like pounding your head against a wall until shit changes, Aerodactyling a fight, it's basically from when Steve M Plays and I used to do those Pokemon Blue item randomizer races with each other, where we would have to essentially like do a solo run, but all the items and key items are randomized. Those were pretty fun, but I remember with Aerodactyl, Steve was taking all of his time that he needed to like fight optional trainers and train, but I was essentially trying to do things at lower levels. I remember in that run, I had like 60 or so resets, and literally half of those resets were on Koga, but then I realized after the run, I could have just trained like 5 levels and make that fight a lot easier. So that's literally where the phrase Aerodactyl the fight came from. But besides, I'm just explaining this in the background because this fight is literally taking so long to try and win. But after I've had 9 resets, I actually attempt something different. I'm going to hold an Oranberry instead of the Quick Claw, because maybe the extra 10 HP might survive another Night Slash for me. And this is the final strat I end up going with though, but I need to get very lucky. In fact, I don't end up winning until the reset counter gets to 17 resets at level 25, and I finally end up winning. If you guys are curious what time Scott's Thoughts was in his run when he beat Jupiter, he defeated Jupiter at a time of 45 minutes and 17 seconds. He even trained to level 28 as well in the wild, and he had 43 speed with the hardy nature. So maybe with Jolly and a good amount of speed EVs, he probably could have been able to outspeed the Skunk Tank, but still, effectively just banging my head against the wall until it worked was basically the best way to do this fight. Anyway, we spent way too long in this section. I get the bicycle, head down through Cycling Road, and then underneath the Cycling Road, I go in the Wayward Cave right here to get a rare candy, so that way I can have it for later, because I'm going to need pretty much every rare candy in the game because of the slow level up group, so this will be worth getting. Plus, right here, I can actually get a hidden Stardust. I'm not sure when I discovered there was a Stardust here. I think it was because in Pearl, there was like an elixir in that wall or something, and I decided to see what it was in Platinum, and it was a Stardust. I'm going to be picking up a lot of high money items this run, because here's the thing, I want to try and purchase Swords Dance as soon as I get into Veilstone, so that way I don't have to do any fights without it, because that's essentially our only saving grace, is the fact we get Swords Dance. But if this thing had like 60 base speed instead of 46, this Pokemon would have ranked so much higher on the leaderboard than it will end up ranking. Anyway though, we're now in Heart Home City. I go in Amity Square to get myself the amulet coin to help with money, as well as getting the Shell Bell item. We'll need the Shell Bell for some fights later. And right now we can go take on the 3rd gym leader, Fantina. Having Bite is going to make her a lot easier, but I actually go ahead and do a lot of the trainers in this gym as well, because Fantina's gym trainers surprisingly give very good experience yields. Plus, for special attackers, a lot of the Pokemon in this gym, mainly the Ghastly and Haunter, give special attack EVs. So it's going to be quite nice. With all the trainers defeated, let's go ahead and take on Fantina. She leads off with Duskull, which is literally slower than dirt, so I can set up a substitute, so that way it could fail to set up Will-O-Wisp, and then behind the substitute, I go ahead and just start spamming Bite. Bite is going to one-shot the Duskull, it will one-shot the Haunter, but fortunately it doesn't break my substitute with Sucker Punch, and then on Mismagius, I go ahead and continue using Bite, it fails Confuse Ray, and then it hits me with Shadow Ball breaking the sub, but it's a bit too late for that. I get to level 30 and beat Fantina on the first try. Alright, based on how the last few fights went, I'm glad that something went easy for once. However though, this is an easy fight in comparison to another fight in Heart Home City. The rival fight here is actually going to be one of the harder fights in this run, so to be safe, I actually deposit my HM users, heal at the center, and the main plan is to essentially just commit the Chansey strat. Just like Aerodactyling a fight, there's also the Chansey strat. What the Chansey strat essentially is it's named after my Pokemon Red with Chansey playthrough, as I believe that was an edited video. The main plan, it's sort of like Aerodactyling, you just do the fight over and over again until you win, but the difference is with the Chansey strat is if you die, you actually go ahead and commit to the Blackout, so that way you can keep the XP and continue grinding, and the whole plan is essentially you just keep doing it until you eventually win. And something that really sucks about this especially is that with the Quick Claw, I actually speed tie the Monferno and the Staravia. They're both at 50 speed, and with the Quick Claw, I essentially have a 60% chance of going first on either one, and I end up either dying to Staravia or Monferno, but I keep resetting instead of just taking the Blackout. I was supposed to do the Chansey strat, just black out and keep the XP, and if I can get to level 33, this fight is literally going to be a world of difference. I don't know what I was thinking at the time, but then again, judging on the fact that I have 19 resets at this point, Yeah, I think I was just getting kind of frustrated. I did not expect it to perform this bad. At 22 resets into the run though, I do finally end up beating the rival. And before I head into Salacion Town, I go into the Lost Tower to pick up a second copy of Return, and then inside Salacion Town, I go into the Salacion Ruins, go into this one room here with Defog, and pick up the other high money items as well. If I need to get Swords Dance or something as I enter, going in here to get the high valued items is a must. Fortunately, I don't have any problems against Ace Trainer Maya or Ace Trainer Dennis today, so I can head into Veilstone City, get the Calcium, Star Piece, PP up, the Rare Candy, and the other PP up. And here's the thing though, with all of these high money items, plus I was holding the Amulet Coin for a little bit, I can go into the mart right here, or I'm sorry, the department store, sell a bunch of my high money items, including the PP ups as well. I'm going to try and sell those last though. I really do not like selling PP ups, so I'll try and save it for last if I have to. And by the time I sell everything else that isn't that, I end up with only roughly like $73,000. And as soon as I realized this, I realized I was going to sell the PP ups. So I ended up selling 2 PP ups. 3, 4. I sell all 4 PP ups and I get $93,000. So now I can go ahead and purchase some repels as well. I buy the repels like 6 to 11 at a time because I got to make sure I don't go under $80,000. Plus, the thing is, I have actually been delaying buying repels this whole time to try and save as much money as possible. And now that I've bought as many repels as I could, I end up with 80,376 Pokedollars left. So now I can purchase Swords Dance for Carnivine, and I have $376 left. That is what I call budgeting. But anyway, with Swords Dance, Return, and Bite, these fights are definitely going to go a lot better, but that doesn't mean the run's going to be easy at all. Just you wait and see. Let's go take on the 4th gym leader, Maylene. Hey, that almost rhymed. Maylene leads off with her Metatite. Fortunately, I outspeed it. It does go for Fake Out, so I go ahead and use 1 Swords Dance, and Rock Tomb ends up lowering my speed. I realized I set up Substitute way too late, but I tried to play the fight out anyway. The Lucario does break the Substitute, and Return does like a third. So yeah, that didn't go according to plan. I decided to just take the Blackout, and then just continue. But when I blacked out, I went all the way back to Hearthome City. Yeah, I'm not going to do this. I'm just going to do the reset. What the plan has to be for this fight is I go ahead and use a Substitute followed by a Swords Dance. I want to try and have a Substitute going into Lucario so that way I can just tank a hit. So I end up having to use Substitute quite a few times, but I eventually get to Lucario at 6 HP with the Substitute up. So now I can eat a Metal Claw and a Force Palm, the sub finally breaks, and fortunately since I don't have any Rock Tombs, Return can one-shot the Machoke and I get my 4th badge. And now, before I go take on Crasher Wake, I'm still going to need a very high level for the end of the game, so I actually fight all the trainers here on Route 214. This route right here has honestly some of the best random trainers for XP. There's a collector here with the Evolutions, Jolteon, Flareon, and Vaporeon. They give roughly 1000 XP each. And then there's another collector with 6 Pokemon, mainly grass types, but both of these guys give so much money. There's also a woman with a bunch of Wormadams too. There's also a PI here named Carlos. He has a Goldeen that likes to use Flail and Horn Drill. Make sure you do not fight that guy at level 30 or lower because he will go for Horn Drill. I then arrive in Pastoria City, get the Rare Candy in the Great Marsh and on Route 212, try to take on the rival, get my butt handed to me, realized I didn't save so I have to black out and fly back. And fortunately I do win on the second try. So now, let's go take on the 5th gym leader, Crasher Wake. Crasher Wake leads off with Gyarados. I go ahead and use a Swords Dance. I try to use a second one, but I get flinched, and I realized I'm only at +1 attack, which is not great. And then the Floatzel hits me with Ice Fang, giving me a quick reset. I do fortunately have Crunch on my moveset. I actually got this move while fighting the gym trainers. This is a very good upgrade compared to Return, compared to Bite. My plan is for me to continue having the Substitute into the Floatzel because I need the Substitute to just tank the Ice Fang, and fortunately it does. It breaks my Substitute, and then I can go ahead and use Return for the one-shot as well as the Quagsire. Oh, it actually lived. Well, that could have been really bad, but fortunately, even after a Rock Tomb, I still outspeed it, and I get my badge. And also, while going through Route 210, the Foggy section, in order to get to Celestic Town, I accidentally encountered the Ace Trainers of Death, the ones with Raichu and Gyarados, and you're forced to do them in a double battle. I encountered them by mistake, so I end up having to black out everything. Yeah, those two are extremely terrifying. I try to avoid them. Usually I do a good job, but not this time, I guess. Fortunately, it does not happen again, and then I can get to Celestic Town and go take on Cyrus. As soon as I get to Cyrus, though, I realized he's going to be very damn difficult because I keep mentioning this, but our speed is so bad. Sneasel and Golbat are very fast Pokemon. So I actually probably need to do an Aerodactyl here as well. But once I get to 29 resets, I decided to do some of the training to the west of Celestic Town. Some of these trainers are sort of okay. I almost never fight them, so I really had no idea what they had. There was a trainer here that gave the Psych Up TM. Fun fact, if you guys watched the Yanmega live stream I did on Monday, my strat for that fight ended up being Swagger Psych Up. It was a very good strat, and the main reason I thought of that strat was because I realized the Psych Up TM was here, and fortunately Yanmega could learn it. Carnivine cannot. If Carnivine could learn Swagger Psych Up, I would absolutely do that strat for Cynthia. That'd be way more consistent than setting up Swords Dance, because it gives the Spiritomb a chance to hit itself. But with all the training done, I go ahead and just continue trying to beat Cyrus. And I finally end up beating Cyrus at 38 resets into the run. Yeah, I have had a lot of resets at this point. But fortunately, once I get to the next gym, things are going to go sort of okay. I go around the region getting a few rare candies that were surf locked. I end up defeating the rival on the second try at level 42 into 43. I should have used my rare candies before that fight to make it easier, but I forgot. But anyway, at least since I got an extra level, I can now use 4 rare candies to get to level 47 and learn the move Power Whip. I'm going to learn this in the place of Return for now because this is the reason I grabbed the second copy of Return. So that way after Byron's gym, I can delete Power Whip. I know Scott kept Power Whip almost the entire game. He was mainly relying on Crunch and Power Whip if I recall correctly, but Power Whip is just so bad offensively, I'm literally better off just reteaching Return. But anyway, before we take on Byron, I realized there was another problem. I had absolutely no move to deal with Caesar's Scizor, but after I realized this, I ended up leaving the gym and going to get the TM for Natural Gift. Natural Gift is a physical move, and it will do a variable amount of base power, and its type is different depending on your held berry. And if I get Natural Gift with a Bluck Berry, which can be found on Route 215, I will have a one-time 60 power fire move, and that allows me to one-shot the Scizor. Okay, now let's go take on Byron. Byron leads off with his Magneton. I go ahead and set up a substitute, and all it does is just try and use Metal Sound, which really doesn't do anything. Then I go ahead and use one Swords Dance, my substitute breaks, and at this point, should I set up a sub or just spam? I go ahead and use Natural Gift on the Magneton because I actually picked up 2 Blockberries. So then now on the Steelix, I can go ahead and just use Power Whip, although I really should have used an extra Swords Dance because he ended up using a Hyper Potion. But that's fine though, I can just use Power Whip to 2-shot the Bastiodon, and now I can get my 6th badge. At this point though, when I was recording, it was like 10 PM my time, so I actually just paused the run and went to sleep, and I actually continued the run a couple of days later, which is probably why you see the time of day go from day to early morning. Yeah, that's the reason, but it didn't really affect the run at all. At this point, I gotta go around the lakes and fight the galactic grunts and the admins. I get a couple of resets on Saturn and a couple on Mars, but I'm not gonna go over every reset just because otherwise this video would get too long. This video is already too long at this point. Usually I make videos that are like 35 minutes, but at 30 minutes in, I haven't even gotten the 7th badge yet. So before I skip straight to the 7th gym, I actually pick up a heart scale in the beach right here, so that way I can relearn Crunch in the place of Power Whip, because I ended up having to delete both for that gym. Anyway, let's go fight Candace. Candace leads off with a Sneasel. That thing is gonna outspeed me no matter what. So I go ahead and use one Swords Dance. I don't bother setting up Substitute at all. So I go ahead and one-shot with Return, and then the Frostlass defeats me with Blizzard. Well, that was quick. I actually go ahead and use all 7 of my rare candies that I've collected at this point to get to level 57 over several different damage rounding thresholds. I'm not sure if it'll help me with speed thresholds, but at least the extra damage and HP might matter, and it absolutely did. When I got to +2 and then got to the Frostlass, I guess it could not detect the one-shot with Blizzard, so it went for Double Team instead. Unfortunately, since the hail wasn't up, that means Snow Cloak wasn't activated, so I can go ahead and one-shot it with Crunch and then defeat the rest of her team with Return. We are now at the point where we need to do the Galactic Hideout in Veilstone, but before we do that, I go back in the department store to buy some vitamins. And today's vitamin of the day is 5 protein, 2 carbos, and 2 HP ups. I want to get as much attack as possible because that's my main attacking stat. I go ahead and use 2 carbos to get my speed vitamins to 100 because once I get inside of the Galactic warehouse, a lot of the grunts give speed EVs, so this will actually help me get a lot more speed in the late game. And the 2 HP ups were just because I had money left. Who knows, maybe the HP might help. I don't know how, but somehow I ended up first trying Cyrus, so I actually had no resets in part 1 of the Galactic quest. So now I need to go do part 2 in Mount Coronet. Believe it or not though, I get 2 resets, not to Mars and Jupiter, but to the 2 grunts before them. These grunts never caused problems, but for some reason, the skunkies were really willing to use Memento, and I kept getting poisoned constantly. So those 2 grunts took a couple of tries to beat. But then on Mars and Jupiter, I just use a Swords Dance, defeat the Munchlax, and then just spam Return and Crunch, whatever I feel like I have to do. And then I can go into the Distortion world, use the rare candies I got in Mount Coronet, and then I can go take on Cyrus one last time. On my first attempt against him, I decided to just use a substitute thinking he was going to Will-O-Wisp, but he actually used Flamethrower, so I ended up resetting the fight pretty quickly. On the second attempt, I instead go for Swords Dance, and as I predicted, it went for Flamethrower. I one-shot the Houndoom, and then the Crobat almost defeats me with Cross Poison, but fortunately I live at 15 hit points. I one-shot the Honchkrow because I outspeed it. Then the Weavile obviously outspeeds me, but it wouldn't matter, it went for Fake Out and I died. And here's the annoying thing actually, I went for Swords Dance, and now the Houndoom went for Will-O-Wisp. I kinda wish you did that earlier. At 22 resets into the run, I'm finally able to use the substitute to block the Will-O-Wisp, set up a Swords Dance, have the sub be broken, and then I can sweep the rest of Cyrus's team with Return. So yeah, pretty difficult, but a lot of things have been difficult with this Pokemon, I'm not gonna lie. And now with Cyrus defeated, I want to go straight to Volkner, but before I do that, this one Ace Trainer right here with an Electabuzz and Magneton, the Electabuzz paralyzes me, and the Magneton actually defeated me with Mirror Shot, which I literally could not believe that happened. So yep, that goes my 43rd Blackout. I've had so many Blackouts this run. Hold up, wait a minute. I just rewound the footage. When I did my part 2, I wrote down that I had 642. I actually thought that was 6 resets, 42 blackouts, but no, that was 6 blackouts and 42 resets. So I ended up mixing up the numbers when I did the part 2 of this run. But yeah, the reset and blackout numbers are totally wrong. But that's fine though. When I get to Cynthia and beat her, I will give the correct reset number. Anyway, let's go take on Volkner. Volkner leads off with his Jolteon. I try to use a substitute, but the Jolteon outspeeds and it hits me with Thunder Wave before I can set up the substitute. So yeah, this fight is not going to work. On the second attempt, for some reason, he went Iron Tail right away. So that way now I can have the substitute set up to +6 for free and then defeat the rest of his team with return. Alright, now we are at 8 gym badges. Now I have to go through Victory Road, beat the trainers that I come across obviously, and I'm going to get all the rare candies too. I get the rare candy at the bottom of the waterfall, I get this rare candy to the northeast of Ace Trainer Omar, and then I get this rare candy in this little secluded room. I don't get any resets or blackouts to anybody in Victory Road, and I actually surprisingly first tried the rival. I actually deposited my HM users just in case he defeats me so that way I can take a quick blackout. I've started doing this in my platinum runs now. I will always just deposit my HM users. It makes the Hall of Fame screen faster so I can get to the game time, but it's not like that part really matters. It's just in case if the rival kills me, I can just accept a blackout and be like 10 steps away and then do the fight again, so that way I can keep all the XP. But anyway, I only first tried because I got a quick claw on the Infernape. And now with the rival defeated, we need to go take on the final 5 trainers. Let's do this shit. The first member of the Elite Four is Aaron, the master of bug types. His Yanmega actually gets me in the first attempt because he uses Double Team. Normally, I call the opponent using Double Team a cheater, but technically Yanmega gets Double Team by level up, so he's not cheating, he's just being a prick. Takes me a couple of tries, but I do end up beating Aaron at 1 hit point remaining. Next up is the Ground type Elite Four member, Bertha. Bertha is really freaking easy, even without Crunch. The Wish Cache can't really do jack to me. I can set up to 3 Swords Dances, I set up a substitute just in case, and then I one-shot the Gliscor with Return. Crunch one-shots the Golem and the Rhyperior. I was really surprised it one-shot the Rhyperior, but fortunately, it must have been just barely enough. And then I can defeat the Hippowdon as well. Next up is the Fire-type Elite Four member, Flint. This fight essentially comes down to Quick Claw luck on particular Pokemon, but something I try and do is on his Houndoom, I try to use Swords Dance for free because usually he likes to use Sunny Day turn 1, and then on the Flareon, I want to have a substitute up going past this fight, so what I try and do is I use substitute, it hits me with Overheat, it lowers its special attack by 2 stages, and I keep doing this over and over again until it gets -6 special attack, and I'm at a substitute in red bar, and he goes for quick attack instead, and I'm not able to get the sub broken. So now I can defeat the rest of his team, and not even the Infernape could break it, he went for Mach Punch. Next up is the Psychic type Elite Four member, Lucian. Lucian is pretty easy. 3 Swords Dances, spam Crunch. Although the Bronzong does end up living because there was a Reflect up, but it really couldn't do much to me anyway. It just used Calm Mind. And then on the Alakazam, I get a lucky Quick Claw. I can guarantee you if I did not get that Quick Claw, Psychic probably would have killed me. Anyway, we need to go take on our final battle. Here comes the champion of Sinnoh, Cynthia. I'm going to skip ahead some of these resets straight to the final attempt because the whole point of this fight is I gotta try and set up 2 Swords Dances and have a substitute leaving the Spiritomb because the Garchomp still outspeeds me, and I need the substitute to be able to tank a hit. On my first attempt though, I'm not going to show it, but I went with 3 Swords Dances, and I used a substitute while in red health, but the problem is the Lucario will use Extreme Speed, so using 4 Swords Dances is the perfect balance. Although on the winning attempt, I ended up having the substitute pass the Garchomp because I got a lucky Quick Claw, and I was at too high of HP for the Lucario to go for Extreme Speed, which was definitely a good thing because for some reason on +4, the Lucario barely survives a return, but fortunately, it doesn't go for Extreme Speed. I defeat it and I finally win. Cynthia goes down at a time of 2 hours, 56 minutes, and 49 seconds at level 74 with an adjusted 69 resets and 7 blackouts, which is definitely not nice, but yeah, that's the actual number, 69 resets, with a time at the Hall of Fame of 7 hours and 22 minutes. Yeah, this was one of the worst Pokemon I played in Platinum, but I really need to stop saying that. I've played some really freaking bad Pokemon in Platinum. I actually did a Pokemon in this recently so horrifically bad, I'm not going to tell you what it is because it's going to be a video later in the year. But one bad Pokemon I can tell you I definitely played is Bastiodon, and Bastiodon was horrifically bad. But if we take a look at the leaderboard, Carnivine is in the bottom 5. It is in 18th place. It only did better than Illumise, Bulbasaur, and Bastiodon. And Illumise is pretty low down here because unlike Volbeat, Illumise does not get Tail Glow, which is a move that raises your special attack by 3 stages in this game. So yeah, that would have been awesome. But here's the thing, both Plusle and Minun had access to Nasty Plot. The only thing that really holds them back is their horrific Rourke splits because they start with normal moves. But yeah, Carnivine, very awful. But you guys want to compare it to Scott's Final Time? I know his run is like 10 months old at this point, but it's still good for a comparison's sake. He actually got a time of 2 hours, 55 minutes, and 34 seconds with 26 resets at level 78 with a game time of 8 hours and 32 minutes. So yeah, honestly, his run was sort of better than mine. Like, he did a lot of safer strats, but I was really trying to Aerodactyl through a lot of fights. But in the end, though, he did end up getting a faster time because the higher level made things more consistent. Which is kind of a shame, though. I was quite ahead for a decent bit, but yeah, Carnivine's just a bad Pokemon in general. I really did not like playing this thing. But anyway, I hope y'all enjoyed. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more. And be sure to follow me on my socials or support me through YouTube memberships. YouTube members will get access to all the patch files for all the backported Pokemon we do on stream. I used to release these videos early as member exclusives, but I kind of quit doing that right now because it kind of does spoil the video ahead of time for other people. Plus, in my Discord server, if I release a video as members only, it still ends up pinging people, which is kind of annoying. So for now, I'm not releasing these early as for members, but you still get access to the patch files and all my emotes, so that's a good thing. But anyway, next week we're going to be playing Pokemon Emerald with Hypno and Mr. Mime. One of those two will be a video, the other one will be a live stream. I'm not sure which one I'll do yet, but I definitely look forward to that because both of them are going to get Calm Mind. Anyway, I will see you all in the next video.